Next up, we will have an entrepreneurship and innovation panel. And why? California is the fifth largest economy in the world and is driven by the state's strong innovation and startup culture. It leads the nation in business starts, innovation, and venture capital funding. With our heralded colleges, universities, labs, and research institutions, California outspends all other states in research and development expenditures, accounting for over one fifth of the total U.S. research and development spend and 28.5% of U.S. originated patents. California based firms are redefining how we live and are solving global challenges with innovative ideas, products, and solutions. Frankly, the future happens here first. And because of that, I'm going to chat with three leaders in this space. So, Brenna, I'm going to start with you. Um, how is iHub San Joaquin working with major employment sectors in your area to harness private sector investment and the development of innovative solutions to tackle some of the major challenges in your region?
Yeah, thank you for that. So iHub San Joaquin has been around for several years, and very early on in its development, we chose to focus in on major employment sectors in our region. So specifically, healthcare, sustainable construction, and ag tech. And focus in on how we could generate more opportunities for new technologies and innovation to be brought out into the valley, into the San Joaquin County region. Um, One of the ways that we've done that is to focus in on a series of outreach events that attract interest. Probably one of our most signature events was our H2O hackathon, which is now in its sixth year. We've received significant support from the private and public sector, as well as the State Water Resources Board and the environmental justice community, to bring attention to the one of the biggest challenges for California, and that is water. And specifically this year, our students are working on a coding challenge around hacking the drought. We've added new components to that, and we now are serving well over 200 students a year in this, from middle school to college, and it grows every year. So that was one of the ways that we initially focused on how we could serve um, uh, new innovations and technologies in issues that are really challenges in San Joaquin County. We've also expanded that with our cybersecurity leadership series. One of the things that we recognized early on with our businesses is that cybersecurity was an area that they were challenged in, and that we didn't have a lot of resources to provide them with. And so we worked really closely with the private sector to generate a series of events. In fact, we just had one. It was the Human Firewall, and that was specifically for small businesses, and how they can protect their businesses from cybersecurity attacks and breaches. We've also done a series that centers on the manufacturing industry, interconnected systems, and trying to deploy resources to our existing businesses within the county.
Thank you for that. Carlos, I'm going to turn to you. What is the HEAL LA program? Why a bioscience focus? And not only do you have just a really cool name, but I know that you have goals in your program and specific folks you are targeting. Tell us about that.
We are. Yeah, thank you, Director Gray. And good to see Rachel on this call, and nice to meet you, Brenna. Heal.LA is an initiative to advance the commercialization of bioscience innovations in Los Angeles and greater Los Angeles region. More importantly, to increase the diversity of bioscience innovations in Southern California. And the reason it exists is we saw a key need. While there are as you know mentioned, there are incredible academic institutions that are the generators of ideas. There are increasingly um, more incubators are providing access to equipment and facilities, capital, venture capital, and other kinds of capital, philanthropy, family offices are increasing in our region. But there was missing the translational piece in the middle, which is the commercialization support of helping these early stage innovations become de-risk themselves from a market risk, management risk, technical risk. And that was what was needed in our region. And we knew that because for 17 years, we ran the NIH Commercialization Accelerator Program, one of the agency's largest translational research programs. So we said, why don't we take those resources, bring them to our backyard, to our region, help companies in our area, and with a specific focus on minority-led enterprises, minority-led ventures, women-led ventures. That's what we're targeting, and particularly those that have an innovation that has specific relevance to the diverse LA community. And I can give you one quick example. I'll just get this in there quickly. Is we know there are racial and ethnic disparities in ovarian cancer among women. We have one company called CPG Diagnostics that is developing a simple blood test for early diagnosis of that. Why does that matter? Here's why it matters, because if you get early detection at stage 1 or stage 2, you have a 93% survival rate. If you get detected at stage 3 or 4, it's down to 23%. Early detection matters. And we're really proud to be helping companies like CPG Diagnostics, homegrown, women-led, to be able to bridge her commercialization journey.
Wow, this is the stuff that matters. Rachel, you're up next. You all do something really cool. The San Diego Angel Conference. It has been a very successful part of your iHub's winning formula for entrepreneurs. Can you tell us briefly a couple of examples of small business wins that your team grew and landed an angel deal at the conference?
Absolutely. So again, my context is San Diego Imperial down right up into the Mexico border. And so we are a naturally innovative region. And one of the things I love about the Angel Conference and the magic that it creates in terms of bringing together investors and entrepreneurs is we don't wait. We don't wait for somebody else to come bring in the capital. We activate individuals in San Diego to make deals locally. And so what that means is that there's a learn by doing on both sides. There's investors that might be investing in other asset classes, but not currently making startup deals. And they get to learn by doing due diligence and going through the vetting process and then meeting the entrepreneurs alongside others. And so then there's activating more capital. And so we're really creating more opportunities than there was before. And then there's the learn by doing for the entrepreneur side. So I'll tell you a story of two folks that went through what we call the entrepreneurship track. And really it comes down to getting your reps in for pitching and also making connections, because financial capital is also about the social capital that you have and the relationships you're making. And so coming together over a series of weeks where you're not just pitching to other entrepreneurs, but you're pitching to investors and getting feedback of saying, okay, I heard that pitch, but that pitch was about your product, not about your business. Let's go back and do it again. And so Mia Thu, who won a couple years ago with her company, Visicel, which is really thinking about how diseases are diagnosed. We can remember where she pitched earlier in the evening and then was given constructive feedback and came back about 45 minutes later with a completely different pitch, the one that she continued to get her reps in and was able to win the Angel Conference. Another one that comes to mind, Tosh Dutt of ChargeNet. So went through the customer discovery process that we offer through our Lean Essentials startup, which is kind of a mainstay of the SBDC program, and then was able to pitch at Demo Day. And his solution has to do with building out our clean energy infrastructure for charging EV charging stations. And so the pitch that changed dramatically through the feedback, the process, but most importantly, the connections he was able to make. And so what happens is through that deal, he's able to make a several $100 deal and been able to leverage that through the connections to raise about $14 million.
Wow. $14 million. Folks, that's what happens when you work with our partners. Brenna, I'm going to come back to you. Um, what is iHub San Joaquin doing to encourage sustainable business practices and green technology in the county?
Yeah, so we actually have a proof of concept company located here in San Joaquin County, Nautilus Data Technologies, and they have a data server, floating data center that utilizes water from the delta to circulate through it and cool the data systems. And this is something that is incredibly innovative. And we're very fortunate to have it located right here at the Port of Stockton. This is something that we think sparks all kinds of interest and opportunity for us out in the valley, and so we've really been supportive of Nautilus and welcoming them to our community. I think one of the other areas that we have focused in on is our collaborative relationships throughout the region and the development of our iHub Advisory Council to include both environmental justice and workforce development groups in order to create a cohesiveness and really build our ecosystem within the region. One of those groups is Edge Collaborative, and Edge Collaborative has a huge focus in workforce development in the climate tech space, and how we can robustly build pipelines that will train our residents up in this region instead of displacing workers. So that's been a big focus of iHub as of recently.
Thank you. And Carlos, what are problems that Hill LA companies are identifying, and what can your innovative startups help solve?
Yeah, so there are, I'd probably say four big challenges that we're trying to help bridge and overcome. Rachel mentioned a bunch, which is access to funding, and fostering areas for that social capital to, and those trust relationships, right, to bloom, which helps access to funding, both, dilutive funding and even non-dilutive funding. We have a focus on increasing the share of minority-led bioscience companies to get greater SBIR awards to our region. That's not a bad thing. We can increase that. That's a good thing. Regulatory issues is also a challenge, or having access to specialized individuals with the skill to help them develop regulatory plans, intellectual property strategies. Another area we're trying to overcome through our relationships with teaching hospitals, industry, academic centers is also opportunities for early stage companies to get trials, to develop mechanisms for trialing and developing demonstration projects for their innovations, so they can show there is impact, so they can show there is validity to what they're doing. Those are some of the unique challenges that we see of companies in our region needing, and that's really kind of what we're geared to do, is to try to smooth that and foster that to happen in a more rapid fashion, because they are, with time, they are burning cash. So there's a burn that's happening, and so if we can short circuit that time, we're helping them be more capital efficient.
Yes. Rachel, can you share a couple of key questions that an entrepreneur should be thinking about when pursuing angel or venture capital for their innovative company?
So I'd say starting, there's so many questions, but it's the timing of when you ask those questions of yourself that can be really critical. One of the first ones is this the right financing path for you? There's so many other paths available, and different business models sometimes lean themselves more to raising equity-based capital. So I think finding out whether or not the business model is scalable, what's going on in the industry, what other folks that have similar solutions have been doing is critical to ask yourself sort of that self-reflective question at the beginning. If it is the right path for you, it's really important to understand your customers. So what investors are going to want to see is different ways of proving traction, not just that you think that it's a good idea and you think that there's a demand for it in the market, but that there's some evidence there that you're able to demonstrate. And so a lot of time can be saved by focusing not so much on the product at the beginning, but really the customer need, understanding it deeply, making sure that you are setting a good basis for you to establish product market fit and then be able to communicate that to investors. Also really understanding your business model and testing that. There's lots of poking at it that needs to happen at the earlier stage. And if you don't do that, you'll quickly find that you'll be reaching some closed doors when you are pitching. And so it's better to really make sure you have clarity and you ask yourself those questions and really just pitch sometimes to your own friends and family and ask about what's not clear, what doesn't make sense, what's a risky assumption that might need to be assessed before moving on to the stage of really pitching to investors.
Nice. So Brenna, coming back to you for your last question, how has iHub San Joaquin benefited from the new iHub Squared designation?
Yeah, so we definitely have, and we're very excited about this new designation. One of the things, and I mentioned this in my previous comments, one of the things in our region that we struggled with is really being able to grow our ecosystem in a way that is robust for entrepreneurs in our region. And so this new designation and funding has really helped put us over the edge there. We are now able to help support the incubators and other entrepreneurial services within our region, and give them the resources that they need to help our small and micro businesses and also our emerging entrepreneurs. So we're very excited about that. I think the other big portion of that was really the establishment of our advisory council within the iHub, and that it's so robust that we're pulling assets from other regions. We have Port Product Labs out of the Oakland area that has just been a tremendous resource to our iHub. We're talking with Opportunity Stanislaus to the south of us in Stanislaus County, and their participation and work with us on the cybersecurity events have been immensely impactful. So it's really about growing that connectivity, working with our universities within the region and our private education institutions. Really, that's just been tremendous for us. And so tapping into those assets and having the funding to be able to scale those opportunities has been really fantastic for iHub San Joaquin.
Sounds like you guys are really building an inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem in your region, and that's what we love to hear. Carlos, let me throw your last question at you. What characteristics are you looking for in an entrepreneur when you're assessing whether or not they should join your Bioscience and Healthcare Accelerator program?
Sure. We are looking for we're looking for certainly minority-led enterprises, but we're increasingly also looking at student teams that are looking to launch companies. So we're really sort of opening the aperture as much as possible. If there are some motivated, teachable folks, have to be teachable. That's just a broad statement that works in all areas of life. Be teachable, be coachable. But student teams is also another area that we're looking for. Very motivated young scientists and researchers looking to start companies. We're looking for folks really as broad as possible. As I mentioned, also, even if they have an innovation that has a particular focus to the diverse patient population in Los Angeles, that's okay as well. It doesn't need to be necessarily a specific deep tech innovation. If it's an approach, a mode, some kind of intervention that increases the ability of healthcare to be delivered in a more effective, efficient way to folks in Los Angeles, we're open to folks with ideas that may fit that description as well. So it doesn't necessarily need to be deep tech, but it does need to have a relevance to the patient population.
Yes. And Rachel, bring us home. tell our listeners today, if someone has an innovative business idea, their dream is a small business, what would you recommend as a couple of steps, maybe next steps, to help them get their small business up and running? Where do they start?
Sure. So I'm going to just say three things. First is connect. Your network is going to be critical to you. And so find your local SBDC, find your local accelerator, find your local startup week, and connect with folks. Sometimes that's the capacity of listening to others. Sometimes that's volunteering. Sometimes that's putting yourself out there to pitch and get feedback. The second is be really customer focused. And be willing to let the insight you're getting from all the conversations you're having evolve your business model, evolve your product. You have to be open to that. And the third is be learning all the time, and let that focus. There's so many things that compete for your time as an entrepreneur. So as you learn, you're going to be able to be more and more focused on, okay, now is the time to focus really on my go-to-market plan. Now is the time to really focus on building out my investor pipeline, et cetera. So I think those would be the three pieces of advice. And again, remember that everything we see in the world started as an idea.
Wow. Thank you all, Carlos, Rachel, Brenna, for giving of your time today. And to our listeners and our audience today, there you have it. These are a representation of our centers and the value and the vast knowledge in our ecosystem to help you start to grow and manage your business. Access to capital, access to the technology ecosystem, you can find it right here in our network.